And I have this little story that I tell them. Of all the years I've been to, I'm from Quebec, my hometown. Of all the years I've been to Quebec, been to France, I've never seen a person down the Champs-Élysées or anywhere that come up to me and say, hey, I want the passé composé of this verb, you know? And I keep telling the kids, accuracy is very important, but communication comes first.
A fantastic example of how language learners and their teachers can go out into the community occurs regularly in Dallas. Teacher Elias Rodriguez from the Booker T. Washington High School for the Performing and Visual Arts often takes his class shopping, not for groceries, but for native Spanish speakers.
When I tell them to prepare their questions, they can't ask a yes or no question. Did you have a house? Yes. Well, that's not going to get them anywhere. So they have to have questions that are going to produce language. And in assessing the whole situation, the whole assignment, is that I ask them to, first of all, is a native speaker going to be able to understand you? The length of time, the type of questions, is your pronunciation good? How much information did you get from the individual? So all of these things come into play, and at the same time, they're using the language, which is the more important thing, and you're bringing in the community, because we have a rich community, especially in Dallas, and I'm sure in other areas in Texas as well. It's important to make a point to the students that community goes beyond the classroom. I think too often we have concentrated our efforts directly to the student in the classroom and have not gone out of the box, so to speak. And so we feel that bringing in the community, especially in Dallas, where we have such a diverse group of Latin American citizens that have migrated or have come into the Dallas area from Central and South America. The language is a living thing. It's not something that is out of the textbook.
Lo que vamos a hacer ahora es entrevistar a diferentes hispanoparlantes para que ustedes tengan la idea cómo es hablar con un nativo, un hispanoparlante, uno que vino de un país hispano.
Today, at the Farmers Market in downtown Dallas, Teacher Rodriguez and his Spanish 3 pre-AP students are interviewing native speakers. Turns out it's fun for the interviewees and an eye-opener for students.
¿De qué origen es usted?
Yo soy ecuatoriana, vengo de Ecuador, de Sudamérica.
¿Cuándo y por qué decidió emigrar a los Estados Unidos?
Yo vine aquí cuando estaba niña. Quise venir para estudiar el inglés, también para aprender muchas cosas y ayudar a mi familia.
The kids they actually get to use the language, and it's not in an artificial environment such as in a classroom. They actually get to speak to a native speaker, and that's the whole purpose. One of the objectives of this exercise is to actually, can a native speaker understand them, and can they understand a native speaker? They love it because they actually get to use what is being taught in the classroom.
Soy Miss Ochoa.
Miss Ochoa, ok. ¿De qué origen es?
Yo soy de Zacatecas.
Zacatecas. ¿De cuántos años vino aquí a los Estados Unidos?
Ahorita aproximadamente tengo 10 años.
10 años. ¿Y aquí solo trabaja?
No, sí, este es mi trabajo. Solo trabajé 3 años aquí, entonces ya decidí poner mi propio puesto. Este es Miss Ochoa, mi puesto.
Este es el puesto. Y entonces ya tiene 3 años aquí.
Tengo 3 años así.
¿Le gusta su trabajo?
¿Por qué vino de compras al mercado?
Bueno, vine de compras porque aquí se encuentran algunos productos más baratos que en otras tiendas.
For many of them, this is their first opportunity to speak to someone who speaks Spanish. So it's bringing them out to the community and saying, you know, Spanish is actually being used out there every day by these people. And let's go out there and talk to them, because it is not something that is just isolated in the classroom.
¿Vino solo o con su familia?
No, sola.
Dígame de su familia.
No, pues ellos todos ahorita están allá. Tengo hermanos que viajan, ellos sí tienen visa para poder entrar aquí. Yo nada más soy la ilegal.
¿Hablabas inglés antes de venir a los Estados Unidos o...?
No. Vamos a traer el tomatillo y el chile que vamos a sembrar en nuestro rancho para venderlo así. También el tomate traemos. Luego traemos sandía, traemos cebollas zanahorias. Podemos también traer cilantro fresquito. Esto lo saqué de mañana del río, mira, huélalo. Sí, the roots fresh.
Yeah.
Okay, cilantro.
Okay. Yeah. Hola.
Hola.
Me llamo Sergio Cantú y soy un estudiante de la High School Arts Magnet aquí en Dallas. Y como proyecto de mi clase de español, estoy entrevistando a gente de países hispanos para aprender más a la gente de nuestra comunidad.
So many of them think that every Spanish speaker in Texas is Mexican American, and what a lot of them, especially our Spanish speakers in the classroom, realize that that there are Spanish speakers that are from Central America and from South America, so that not everyone who speaks Spanish is from Mexico.
Yes, this is really cool. I've never really done it before, and it gave me a chance to actually get out in the community and speak the language with different people, speak it and have an actual conversation, real conversation, because in class we just speak with each other.
Sí, qué buena recomendación. Exacto.
Another teacher who asks his students to use their language skills to meet real-world challenges is Greg Folds in his Spanish 2 classroom at Churchill High School in San Antonio.
Our objective today was communities, and we're being fortunate enough to live in San Antonio. We have such a rich Hispanic and cultural heritage here, and of course the Spanish language is almost everywhere, from historic monuments to restaurants to tourism. And we've talked in class about the fact that the tourism industry is actually not the #1 industry in San Antonio. It's actually number 2, the #1 industry being the healthcare and medical industry. We basically looked at developing a brochure, or the beginnings of a brochure, very similar to one that the hospital systems use here, and in particular Methodist Healthcare uses to make connections to the Mexican community as well as Latin American customers and clients.
The brochures are researched, written, and then presented to class, all in the target language.
Para Mario,
sí,
baja de peso, no fumes, haz abdominales, duerme más y come las frutas y las verduras, visita el doctor y ponte en forma.
Muy bien.
Y para María, come más, no tomes Coca-Cola, haz las artes marciales, duerme más, come sana y visita el doctor para la espalda.
Recomendaciones para Mario es ponte en forma, no fumes más, haz régimen y ve al doctor.
Excelente.
Y para María, evita refrescos, no comes comida chatarra, relájate más y aumente de peso.
And as I said before, because we compared it to a brochure that's actually used by a healthcare system in San Antonio, students could make the immediate connection that there are people in the community, the larger city outside of the walls of this high school, that are making money and are reaching people that speak a different language, be that healthcare, tourism, whatever it might be.
¿Y Félix y Marcos, qué han hecho ustedes?
Para Mario, baja de pesos, no fumes.
Muy bien.
Ponte en forma,
duerme, excelente.
La dieta.
Muy bien.
Para María, come más comida, no tomes refrescos, haz más ejercicio, duerme 6 horas más en las noches, come una comida
balanceada.
Yeah.
What have you learned from this project, just from the little bit that we did? We threw this at you kind of quickly, but what do you feel like you've learned, someone that can volunteer? Just some of the recommendations we've made. Kristen.
That Spanish is used widely, it's used in everyday life, outside of high school and past college in their career.
Excelente. ¿Y tú, Rachel?
Finally, the program goal of Communities shows students that knowing more than one language is not just an asset for future career and business opportunities. Learning a language other than English provides endless occasions for personal enrichment, for travel, for example, or to connect with family heritage.
My sister was born in Mexico, and a lot of my family speaks Spanish. I was pretty much the only one who, growing up, I didn't learn as much Spanish as my brothers and sisters did. So I can speak Spanish okay, but coming into communications arts, it improved my Spanish a whole lot. It made me realize how important it was, and I started speaking it a lot more at home because I realized I needed to practice it, especially going into the field I want to go into, which is international law. I have to know Spanish, and I have to speak it well. So I think through the experiences here, through the classes, through my teachers, I mean, especially my teachers, they have such an international flavor, if you will. I mean, one's from Argentina, one's from Puerto Rico, and one's from Spain. I mean, just getting to meet them was great because they bring they bring different elements to the classroom, and when they teach, and you can see it when they teach. So I think that was really important, and I took that home with me.
Well, my mother had to take French in school, and she studied actually in Quebec, and she does a lot of French cooking. So from a very young age, I'd be very interested to learn more about French and to get into the whole culture thing. And everyone else is taking Spanish, so I wanted a little different flair. And my middle school offered French, so I decided to try that instead. In my mom's family, they're Cajun. They all take French, and they all have that Acadian line. So I get to speak a little French around them. And I've done traveling to quite a few French-speaking areas. I did actually go to Canada over the past summer. I got to speak with some Quebecois guys. And, you know, it's a great vacation language because I speak it in places like Tahiti and Vietnam and all over the world, places other than France. So I've had a little experience in speaking it out of the classroom.
Foreign languages need to go beyond what we had been achieving. We need to connect with other disciplines so that students can see how a foreign language is integrated into every other area of curriculum, and even more importantly, how we need to be connecting with the community around us. And that community is a very broad word. It's not just your local high school. It's not just Austin. It's not just the state of Texas. That we are indeed a global community. And through foreign language, students have the ability to connect with all of those communities.
Thank you for watching Learning Languages Other Than English, a Texas Adventure, Communication and Communities. For more information about any of the topics discussed, or to contact any of the individuals who helped in the production of this video, please contact the Languages Other Than English Center for Educator Development at their website at www.cedal.org/LOTECED, or contact LOTE CED Director Lillian King Meidlinger at 1-800-476-6861, or contact the LOTE unit at the Texas Education Agency at 1-512-936-2444.